Have you ever wondered if there's a budget-friendly entry-level scooter that still packs a punch, especially if you're on the heavier side? We're testing this one out today. It's mine, I own it. This is my 100-mile, 260-pound owner review. This machine is the Joyor S5 single motor electric scooter. And it's turning heads for a couple of reasons. It's one of the most affordable scooters around with these specs, and it's built to zip around a rider weighing over 220 pounds. But I think the real question is it any good? In this video, we're going to dig into the experience I've had as an owner of the Joyor S5. My son has one too, but he's sending his back. We'll figure out why. This one here is the single motor 800 watt version. You can pick these up for about 650 to 800 bucks on Amazon. We're going to dig into a range of topics, but most importantly, we're going to talk about the 1, 2, 3 things I absolutely love and the one thing I hate. So let's go! So we're going to start off with one of the 3 main things I love about this scooter. So the first thing anybody's going to ask you when they see you on a scooter like this, the very first thing is always, how fast does it go? I think you get that question even a little bit more on something with full suspension like this because it looks like it can go pretty fast, and it does. According to its specs on Amazon, it has a top speed of 31 miles an hour. I've gotten it up to 33 miles an hour on a downhill, and I can consistently get about 25 to 28 miles per hour with a full charge on flat ground. There's 3 different riding modes, they just call them gears, and as you would expect, 1 is the slowest, 2 is the medium gear, and 3 is the fun gear. The second thing they're gonna ask you is how long does the battery last? On Amazon it says you can get about 34 miles of range. I did an entire range test video on this scooter, you can check it out. I got about 18.6 miles of range. I was riding it pretty hard in 3rd gear most of the time. I was pretty impressed with that range. Of course, it's nowhere near the 34 miles as advertised. However, I think if you put a 150-pound person on here and kept it in gear 1, you probably could go about 25, 30 miles. I measured about 5 hours of charge time on this scooter. From completely dead to fully charged took about 5 hours, which I would say is pretty good, but it's mostly because the battery's not very large. It's an LCD monitor, it's simple, it's clean, very bright, easy to see in daylight. There's no app integration, it's just simple. Simple and clean. There's 3 buttons on the scooter. They're easy to know what they do. There's not much of a learning curve here. Without an app, there's no locking feature of any kind. Anybody who comes up with this scooter can turn it on and take off. So you might want to find a way to lock her down. There's a bunch of P mode settings on here. The manual is pretty horrible. It describes a couple of the modes that you can change in the settings, and it's pretty simple to get into the settings by just holding down the positive and negative button for a couple seconds. And luckily there is a factory reset setting in here. Might come in handy if you accidentally change some settings. So the scooter comes with LED lighting. There's a front headlight down at the bottom. It's LED, it's fully adjustable. Lights up my garage pretty well. One cool thing about the rear light is when you hit the brakes, this light flashes red. It doesn't just come on bright red, it flashes red. And this works even when the lights are turned off, which is really nice. I wouldn't mind if this front headlight were mounted up higher. I think it serves a little bit better purpose being mounted up higher, a lot more visual to cars, and I think that's a better spot for lighting, but we'll take it. Cruise control, not something I thought I would really use or want, but once I enabled it, I use it all the time. The way you activate cruise control is very annoying, however. There's no dedicated button. When you turn it on in the settings, if you just hold a certain speed for like 5 to 10 seconds, it'll just lock in that speed and start cruising at that speed, which can be kind of dangerous if you're new to scooters or just new to two wheels in general. To cancel, you just have to hit the brakes or tap the throttle twice. It says tap the throttle once, but that doesn't do anything. I've found that I have to tap the throttle twice. Suspension is pretty good. I'm maxing out the weight capacity on this scooter, I think is 265 pounds, and I'm about 255 right now. It works as I would expect it to work based on the way it looks. So we have 10-inch pneumatic air-filled tube tires. Yes, there's a tube inside. One good thing is a spare tube comes with the scooter, which I wasn't expecting, and a little tool. One downside that has me worried is when I have to change this tube inevitably one day, the change process is a nightmare. I haven't had to do it yet, but I've watched a couple videos on how to change the tube, and you essentially have to take the whole freaking thing apart, and you need a specialty tool just to take the bolt off. It just looks like a nightmare. So I do dread the day that I have to change the tube or fix a flap. Let's move to the second thing that I absolutely love about the scooter, exceeded my expectations, is just the overall look and feel of the scooter. It feels pretty nice. It looks pretty nice. I don't think it looks as good as some of the better scooters, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't feel as good as the higher end scooters. But overall, it doesn't feel like a low quality device. I didn't think I would be a huge fan of the orange, but it's growing on me. When I see it in person, it looks better in person than it does in videos, and definitely better than it does in pictures. The grips on the handlebars have a little bit of a comfortable shape to them that you don't see on a lot of scooters. The mechanical disc brakes work well. I would compare it to a bicycle in like the $700 to $800 range, and it handles well. Like, you feel pretty comfortable, you know, kind of dipping into some curves and leaning the scooter. It just kind of sticks to the road. There's definitely some wobble at higher speeds. When I'm going 33 miles an hour on this thing, I feel pretty, I really should be wearing like full motorcycle gear. Like, there can be a little bit of a ooh shit moment if you're not careful. So going that fast on 10-inch tires is just As far as quality is concerned, it's one of those you kind of get what you pay for in terms of water resistance. There's none. Absolutely no water resistance. And when you're riding around on a scooter that you know has no water resistance, you realize how much goddamn water there is out there in the world. It doesn't matter if it hasn't rained in months. For some reason, there's just random puddles of water everywhere. It's annoying. Go slow through the puddles. There's no water resistance on this thing. And there's just like these wide open holes in the scooter where cables come out of, and they didn't put any silicone or any type of sealant there at all. So you can see that there's tons of access for water to get into the control systems on this scooter. Do not ride this scooter in the rain or in water. It's an aluminum frame, and so it feels and handles pretty light. Like I said, more like the $700 to $800 bicycles. It's not a steel frame Walmart bike, it's aluminum, and it feels like aluminum. You have an adjustable stem, which is great, but what that does when you have this long, skinny, adjustable stem is you're gonna get some stem flex. Doesn't really boast confidence when the stem is flexing. The third thing that I absolutely love about the scooter, I've mentioned quite a few things I like, quite a few things I don't love, is just the value. You're not gonna be able to drop $700 into a scooter that gives you this much value, especially if you're 220 pounds plus, because a lot of scooters have a 220 pound weight limit. Heavier riders are gonna have to spend more for scooters. It just feels like a good deal. So the scooter weighs 48 pounds, the single motor version. Real quick and easy. It does fold up and click into place. It locks into place. You can pick it up by the stem. You can throw it in the back seat of a car. However, the locking mechanism, it's just this little flap here, plastic flap that just kind of hooks over the latch, and that's all you get. It seems like they took the absolute cheapest route to say that they lock the scooter in the riding position. The deck size, I like this size. There's plenty of room for me. I don't have large feet. The deck size feels right for the scooter. I don't think it needs to be bigger or smaller. And I do like this place to rest your foot here. I think that's really useful at higher speeds, especially if you have to brake. You should be pushing back on that as well. So it's really nice to have a place to put your foot, and this thing's solid. When it comes to maintenance, other than the tire issue, everything else seems to be so far so good. I've put about 100 miles on the scooter. I don't think there's gonna be a ton of maintenance involved on this thing, to be honest. So when it comes down to the Joyor brand, there's not a lot of information out there. They have a website that looks pretty straightforward and pretty legit. And I don't think this is necessarily just like a Chinese clone company, but I think it kind of is just a Chinese clone company. None of the larger scooter videos that compare latest, greatest scooters really review this scooter or really accept it as a legitimate brand, I would say. So that's one downside to it. However, I have found websites that sell OEM parts for the scooter, and they're cheap. This light you can get for like 12 bucks. So that's kind of cool. Like if something breaks, there's a website you can go to buy spare part, but it's not really like a well-known or respected brand. And there is one thing I absolutely hate about this scooter, and it's the throttle response. The throttle itself, the design of the throttle is fine. I like a thumb throttle, it feels fine. However, the second you touch that throttle, this thing is taking off full fucking speed. Instant torque, it feels cool. At first, when you first get it, you're like, wow, this thing's powerful, this is cool. However, there's no medium throttle. You're either full going or not going at all. So at low speeds, even in gear 1, this thing is herky and jerky. There's gonna be this jumping motion that you can't quite control the way you want to. And we're talking millimeters of movement here. So this is an all or nothing throttle here. Overall thoughts and opinions, as you can probably guess, are positive. I think it's really fun to ride. Would recommend it to anybody that's looking for something with decent speed, power, sleek design, modern, affordable, simple to use. And one last thing I forgot to mention is, why is my son sending his scooter back? There's nothing wrong with the scooter. When I bought my scooter, he got a little overexcited and bought his own. It's just kind of sat in the garage. He rode it once or twice with me. He's 17 years old. He's got a car. His friends have cars. He just hasn't really been able to ride it much. It's just sitting in the garage. He's sending it back because he's just not riding it that much. You might run into that. I was a little worried about that myself. It's my first scooter, and that's one of the main reasons I decided to buy a cheaper entry-level scooter as opposed to a $1,500, $2,000 scooter. So that's all I have to say about the Joyor S5. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have some fun out there. Get a scooter.